There's a guy who's living in a 22,000 square foot mansion for free in New York City.
Wow.
Do you see the story?
Mm-mm.
His house, he's standing out front of it. His name's Roy Fox. He hasn't paid rent for his New York City apartment in more than 30 years. In a city of 8.4 million people, 81 years old, he is one of the people who reside in one of the city's publicly owned historic sites. He worked as a radio host, but he lives free in the King Manor House, an 11-acre historic landmark in Jamaica, Queens. The only catch, he serves as the caretaker.
Wow.
So if you take care of the house, you get to be in the house. Hey, Scuba Steve, didn't you once, when you were in Orlando, live in a massive house rent-free?
Yes, I lived in this house. It was 11,000 square feet, and I lived in the guest house wing attached next to it. And all I had to do was watch it while he was in the French Riviera with his wife and mow the lawn, and that was it. And when I was living there, I didn't really take it in what I was doing. But now I look back at it, I was like, holy crap, this is pretty crazy that I was living in this house as an 18-year-old kid for about a good year and a half.
So you lived there even when they were living there?
Yeah, well, even he was hardly ever there. He was there a lot in France with his wife. But even when he was there, yeah, I'd be there with him, and I'd be in the little guest house. Sometimes he'd come over and talk to me and have a beer or walk around his house. And when I'd walk around his house, he had some of the coolest stuff. Probably the top thing that I saw that was pretty interesting was next to his master bathroom tub, he had the original Lassie stuffed, looking at him while he bathes.
What?
Wait, the dog from the show?
The actual dog from the actual show.
How did he have the dog?
I think he's the original owner of it. Like, he owned the dog.
What did this guy do to have this house in his life?
Lassie's owner.
So he invented this mechanism that was popular in the 80s and 90s that would switch from the phone to the fax machine. So he's the inventor of that. And his wife was the heir to Alfa Romeo. So they had family money as well.
What's Alfa Romeo?
It's a car. It was popular in the 80s and 90s, but it's become popular again lately.
And how did you meet this guy?
I met him through my ex-girlfriend's father, who also lived there as well when he was going through divorce. I let him live with me.
Your ex-girlfriend's... Oh, where you were dating her at
Yeah, when
the
I was
time,
dating
though.
her. Not my ex. I mean, obviously my ex now because I'm married. But when I was dating her, her father lived there with me. And that's how I found out for this guy. It was through him.
Did you ever go on any trips with him or anything like that?
We went on a skiing trip in Maryland.
What? Are you sure you weren't like a kid gigolo?
Like I was his houseboy.
Yeah, what's happening here?
Maybe I wasn't. I didn't realize it at the time, but we didn't do anything weird, so it wasn't that.
Are you sure?
I'm positive.
Did the wife ever flirt with you?
I never met her because he said that she was sick, so she could never leave France to come to America.
This whole thing sounds shady.
I mean...
Are you sure she wasn't stuffed in the guest bathroom?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But when I would tour the house, there was all kinds of weird things and rooms that I couldn't go into.
Really?
Oh, like he
Yeah.
told you, this room's off limits?
Yes, and he had an obsession with keeping dead animals. Like he had a garage, like a 10-car garage, and anything that died on his property, he would keep it and eventually would stuff it and put it in his house.
Okay.
Wait, any animal that
Any
died?
animal. Like he had like raccoons, dogs from the past that he's had.
But why?
I don't know. I don't know. I never really dove into. I was 18 years old, so I didn't really question it. I was living in an 11,000 square foot mansion. My friends would come over and have parties. It was the coolest part of my life.
He didn't care if you had people over?
He didn't care at all. As long as I was clean, and he wasn't home a lot, so it didn't really matter. But when he was home, he was cool to hang out with.
And you never peeked in the rooms you weren't supposed to peek into?
I didn't. I was a rule follower, so if he said don't go in there, I didn't go in there. I didn't want to lose the house that I was living in.
And what does this guy do now?
I haven't seen him in a long time. He was probably in his late 70s, so I don't even know if he's still alive.
Okay, I'm going to need to Google him.
Yeah, I'll tell you his name off air.
Okay, well, I'm just going to Google guy that invented phone to fax machine.
And then see where his wife is.
Yeah, exactly.
Or what year she disappeared?
Yeah. That's a good point.
Wow, that's a crazy story.
Yeah, thank you. It was
Why
pretty
did
cool.
you leave?
I left because then I started dating somebody else, and then so I ended up moving in with her. That was. I mean, otherwise I'd probably still be there to this day if I could.
How was Orlando for you living?
For me, it was cool because we were 45 minutes from the beach. All my friends were there, so that was life for me. So I loved living in Orlando with the theme parks nearby. I love the weather. I love the hot weather. So that was my life. So I enjoyed Orlando.
Your wife's from California?
Yeah, from San Francisco.
You're from Florida?
From Florida, Orlando.
So is Nashville like the perfect medium place, or is the goal to get back to one or the other?
Right now, it's perfect. I mean, if we weren't in a pandemic, it'd be great because Florida's right there, California's right there. I love Nashville. I still have a little bit of me that wants to go back to Hollywood at some point, LA. But Nashville it's a great chapter in my book right now.
Hollywood.
Yeah.
That's where he came from.
Wait.
Scuba Steve, before
Yeah.
I hired him here, his executive producer was producing Ryan Seacrest.
Mm-hmm.
What, Amy?
Well, I just wondered why do you want to go back to Hollywood? Why am I struggling with that?
Well, my original move there, when I first moved there, I was not in radio for a moment. I worked for Dr. Phil. So my aspirations was to be in Hollywood, to produce TV shows and be a part of that.
Okay,
and
that's
so I'd like
what
to go back there to work in that realm.
So I think a lot of people just went Dr. Phil. So
Yeah.
you work for Dr. Phil?
Yeah, I was one of his like PAs. I was kind of working my way
He
up.
was his pool boy, too.
He lived in his guest house.
It was great. He had stuffed dogs everywhere. It was cool.
So you worked as a production assistant for Dr. Phil.
Correct, yeah.
Did you ever meet him?
A couple times, yeah. I mean, he's a nice guy.
Did you just...
Wow. Scuba said, he's a nice guy. and then diverts his eyes.
And you only met him a couple times. That's crazy.
How did
Yeah.
that go with Dr. Phil? Like, what did you learn from that job? Where did it get you?
For me, it was on the Paramount lot. So that alone was surreal. I got to drive my Honda Civic on the Paramount lot and see all that. So I got to see, like, when through the downtime, I got to see other productions and just kind of see how they were doing things. And learning how to write scripts and how to book guests and all these kind of things. So I learned a lot of tools that I took and brought into radio as well, but that I harnessed and used later as well.
And then you went from Dr. Phil to where?
to Seacrest.
Got
and
it.
then Seacrest to you.
There you go. He's moving on up. Yeah. Here's the thing. The celebrities, I think it's going the wrong way.
No, this
Wait
is a
a
great
second.
opportunity.
Yeah, okay. all
His
right.
resume looks a little weird.
You're climbing down, sir. All right, let's play.
Okay.
By the way, that's Scuba Steve, our executive producer, who sits in the glass room.
It's a